Hello, Geo students. Are your directions for your final project, Interactive Notebook for Human Geography. You're going to find the directions in your Week 6 folder. So you want to go to Week 6 and open it up. And you'll find rather than having different folders for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to have the materials we need for the week are located in one folder. So you open up that folder and you're going to find there are two items that you need to be concerned with. Monday, we will, as a class, use the interactive notebook country list. And I need to spell country correctly. We're going to select countries that you will be putting together your presentations on. So, assuming that we've done that now and you're looking at the directions, you're going to open up your final project assignment. See, the directions are included in the template. So, this is very similar to how your conflict project worked. You're going to click on the link to the final project student template, and then you're going to make a copy. And what will appear then is your own copy of a template that you can rearrange to make it look like something like this, where your first page will be Human Geography B, the Interactive Notebook Project. It'll say your name, and it'll say country you selected. So you will replace those items with your name and the country you selected. So you'll see I'm going through a sample that I created with you here. I chose the country of Sri Lanka. The countries that you're looking at are developing nations. So from that master list that we looked at, one of your countries, whatever your country is a developing nation. The directions that you need to follow for this assignment are contained within this template, as well as links that you need to get to resources that you will want to use to help you complete the project. And the rubric is included in the slides, as well as daily instructions for each part of your interactive notebook. So for this project, you're going to be provided with a list of the LDCs. Well, we're kind of doing that together. And you create the 6-part Google slide presentation that incorporates all the elements that are explained below or in the next slides. Instead of a formal presentation, each slide is going to be accompanied by a separate explanation slide. This will be completed instead of a final exam. You may work with a partner if you choose, but it is not required. Use the provided templates in this interactive notebook for you to look for you. Look for portions that are highlighted because that's where you need to replace what's highlighted with your own information. This slide is linked to the first slide of each part of your presentation in this notebook. So if I were to click on the link to part 1, population, it would take me to the first slide on part 1 of population. And you'll find on the first slide of each new section is a video with instructions of how to go about completing this section of the project, as well as the written directions. So in part 1, the population profile, you can see there's a link that's provided for you to get to the World Factbook, and you have to find a population pyramid. I'm actually going to go to that because I want to show you the fact book. So when you are looking for information on your country, here's your World Factbook. You're going to want to click on countries, and you can use the filter to help you whittle down the alphabetical order of the countries. So if you go to S, like for me, there's 3 pages of S's. Remember, my country is Sri Lanka, so I happen to be on the 3rd page. When you open your country up, you will find you'll need to scroll down. There'll be some photos. You don't need to see those right now. There'll be some different links for some images or graphics. But I am going to guide you when you use the World Factbook to people and society. So you may not see it laid out on the side like that. In fact, let me close it because yours will probably look more like this. And what you will need to do on your iPad is click on the caret where it says introduction, and that's where you can get to people and society quickly. And then within the people and society section, you are looking for a population pyramid. So you're going to need to look for your age structure, and right underneath age structure is a link to a population pyramid. So then you would open that up and then take a screenshot of your pyramid or copy and paste it, save it, so you can paste it into your project. So that's where you find the population pyramid. I found that tricky the first time I saw how this web page had been redone. And then later on, as you scroll down, you're going to need to look for the birth rate of your country. And that appears a little later on after the population pyramid. You'll need to find the death rate. And then we'll also ask you to look up one other population detail with that. You see, you'll have to put your birth rate and death rate in a slide. Sri Lanka's was 14.01. Their accrued death rate was 6.45. We also ask you to calculate your country's natural increase rate. You get to do the math. So take the number you had for the birth rate, subtract the death rate, and that gives you your natural increase rate. When you are asked where your country appears on the demographic transition model at the DTM, you should be looking for 14.01 is my birth rate, so 14.01 or 14 is probably right around here. So I can see that that's when the birth rate's right at the end of stage 3, almost into stage 4. The crude death rate is 6, so this crude death rate 6. That looks like it's towards the end of stage 3 as well. And the NIR is the gap in between. So to me, it looks like my country is pretty close to entering stage 4 of the demographic transition model. In other words, we would expect its population to start squaring off or maybe even declining a bit. And when I look at Sri Lanka's population pyramid that I pasted in here, that's what I wrote then, stage 3 moving into stage 4. These are the examples of different countries that were in different stages of the DTM that we did way back in Human Geography A, and compare your pyramid to the shape of these 3, and which one does it look the most like? Well, I would say mine looks a lot like kind of a hybrid between 3 and 4, so that's why I put stage 3 moving into stage 4. If yours looks like a traditional period, your country pyramid, your country is still in stage 2. If it's starting to square off and kind of looks more like an arrowhead, then you're in stage 3. And if it's starting to look more like a diamond, or maybe even starting to get um, and people living to be older. I think that's the other piece that I looked at with Sri Lanka is people were living longer than you'd find in larger percentage of people living longer than you find in other stage 2 and 3 countries. And then the population explanation slide. Well, this is a place for you to check to make sure you've put all the material in the section for population, that you have a pyramid, and that the statistics are there to back up the demographic transition model determination. And all parts are explained and connect accurately and easily to the pyramid to the DTM. So I quickly wrote in that Sri Lanka's life expectancy is 81st in the world at 77.75 years old, because you'll see it says include one additional statistic, and that came from the World Factbook. So you could look at total fertility rate, urban population, life expectancy, or infant mortality rate. It doesn't matter to me which one you choose. You just want to be able to incorporate it in your answer. So like as I was looking through Sri Lanka, I think here's your infant mortality rate. That's where I found life expectancy. And note, with each of the statistics that you're looking up, it usually tells you where it compares to other countries in the world. And so I like that because it gives me an idea of where this country ranks. So I even included that in my explanation, 81st in the world. And then I said, combine the fact that the crude birth rate, crude death rate, natural increase rate appear to look like the DTM at transition from stage 3 to 4, and the population pyramid shows that the growth is squaring like stages 3 and 4, and people tend to live longer than the example of stage 3 in the previous slide. I conclude that they're entering stage 4. Also in my explanation, I said this is the same range as countries like Slovakia, Estonia, and Ecuador. I pulled that little number from when I clicked on the country comparison, because when you do that, it kind of shows you, you can go down, okay, I'm 81, my country is. And I can see some other countries that are around the same number I have, like Ecuador, Estonia, I think Slovenia was in the 70s, or Slovakia, sorry, was in the 70s. So including a piece of information like that is useful for a reader because it shows that you have a good grasp of where your country ranks, not only just with a number, but where it fits along a list of other countries around the world. Part two, and you could get to this quickly if you were to click on the link up here if you're looking to get to part two for the day. See, part two. You're going to be looking for folk culture and pop culture. So this goes back to Unit 5. You're going to look for 2 pictures of folk culture, 1 picture of pop culture at least, and 1 picture of famous cultural icons. And so I found a couple of pictures of traditional dances or celebrations. Celebration of the peacock, the dance of the harvest. I put in captions on what you're looking at in the image. Make sure that you're descriptive when you are telling the viewer what they are looking at. Saying this is a dancer is probably a good start, but should be more detailed than that. A dancer for what? So in this case, it's a harvest dance, which is linked to growing crops like tea in Sri Lanka, the tiny island country. For pop culture, I found a couple of pieces here. I found the Sri Lankan cricket team, 2-time world champion, warming up. I thought that was pretty cool. And then Ceylon tea is a very popular tea that's grown in Sri Lanka and then shipped throughout the world. So tea drinking certainly pop culture phenomenon. A famous person that I discovered from Sri Lanka is a guy that went by the name of Dilan. His real name is Dilan J, a Sri Lankan-born rapper and actor who now resides in Los Angeles. He's performed with the likes of Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, Taylor Swift, and Jack Johnson as an opening act for them on tours. And when it comes to the culture explanation, then you want to make sure you have all your images, your folk culture, your pop culture, your famous person are included, and you explain your pictures. And then in a short paragraph, summarize what each cultural item or event was and why it's important to the culture of your developing country. And I think when I connected um, Sri Lanka's culture to the growing global community, because a lot of what they do is dependent upon trade with other countries. The next section, part 3, was political organizations. And again, at the beginning of each section, is a video for you to watch the directions in detail of how to go about finding the information you need. This list we provided for you is the list of supranational organizations that you could check out to see if your country is a member. Now, keep in mind what part of the world your country is from. Like Mercosur, for example, is Latin and South American countries. So trying to look up and see if Iran, or not Iran, but Iraq or Iran, whatever, is part of Mercosur, that would not you would waste your time doing that because it's not part of that region of the world. Which is why when we selected our countries, I divided them off by region so you have an idea which region of the world your country is in. So then you have a supranational organization tracker where I've given you an example like the UN. Sri Lanka is a member of the UN. It's a political organization. And when I went to their website and found their purpose, which just usually looks like About Us, you can click on About Us and find that when you go to an organization's webpage. I just pulled out a couple of key points. When I started, excuse me, when I started going through the political organizations that I found Sri Lanka to be a part of, I found they're part of the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, and the Commonwealth. All 3 of these are economic organizations, and the Commonwealth also has some political and military uh, links as well as they try to share the goals of prosperity, democracy, and peace. The other 2 organizations are linked with trade and finance. And then a brief description, what each organization is and why it's important to your developing country. Because mine were all economic, I was able to lump them together as I was writing out my explanation for you. Part 4 is about the urban areas or the cities. And so there's a video there for you to view with the more detailed explanation. Here we've given you a slide to remind you of the difference between rank size and primate city, and using Canada as an example, you can see because Quebec is half or a little more than half of Toronto's population, and Vancouver is about a third of Toronto's population, and Calgary is about a quarter of it, and Edmonton's about a fifth of it. You can see that Canada follows the rank size rule. What you will need to do is go online and go to do a search like largest cities in, and then enter your country. If you scroll down after the first return, you look down 3 or 4 or 5 returns, you probably find the World Atlas, which I think does a really good job of providing a nice, neat, and accurate list of the 5 largest countries and their populations. If you scroll down far enough, once you click on the World Atlas, it usually gives you a chart that looks very similar to this, so it'd be easy for you to transfer information over. In Sri Lanka, you can see the 5 largest cities range from 5.5 million people, or just over 5.5 million, down to 153,000. There's a big jump from the top 2 cities in population to the bottom 3. So what it tells me is that these are 2 primate cities on the island, and then the rest do not follow the rank size rule. So this is one of those cases where you would need to go to the third, fourth, and fifth cities just to see if it follows. Now, one thing that led me to believe that Sri Lanka wouldn't be rank size rule is it's not a very large country in terms of land, and it's an island country. So I figured most of the resources are going to be located in 1 or 2 towns. And as it turns out, Colombo and SJK are the 2 capitals. Colombo is the old capital. SJK is the new capital. So it makes sense that most of the goods and services that people need, the high threshold ones, are located in those 2 cities. So there's the list of the 5 cities. There's the description in the chart, and then gave a reasoning for why. Part 5 is using the Human Development Index, and for this, you will need to use this website, the Human Development Index webpage. There's an in-depth description of how to use this, but you'll find it's real easy. You can type in your country's name, and it gives you the rank of your country, and it gives you the value. I think those 2 pieces of information are important. And then you're also going to be asked to record that, and not only record your country's information, but also 2 countries that are in the neighborhood or same region as your country. So you may have to look at a map to discover some border countries or countries that are nearby. Um, I looked up India and Bangladesh's HDI then as well, the same way I looked up Sri Lanka's, and I found both those countries to be significantly lower than Sri Lanka's. I already put United States in there for you, so you have that to refer to. You can see the US is 17th in the world in HDI, Human Development Index. Sri Lanka ranks much lower than the US, but much higher than India and Bangladesh. In my explanation slide, then, that's what I'm saying. It's well ahead of its closest neighbors. However, it has a long ways to go to join the most developed countries of the world, as its ranking is about 15 points, or when you're looking at those numbers, right? About 15 points lower than the United States. 0.78 is about 15 points lower than 0.92. And then in terms of spots and rank, it's 55 spots lower than the US. Part 6, the video is on the upper right-hand corner like a postage stamp. We want you to create a collage of 3 pictures of agricultural practices within your country. Discuss the category that they have and the type of agriculture. So remember, subsistence is going to be more likely found in less developed countries. If you're doing a developing country, I wouldn't be surprised to find a few examples of that here. You may find some commercial agriculture as well. I found plantation agriculture in Sri Lanka with the tea industry. I found some subsistence farming with cinnamon tree farms here, and this is a rice paddy along a riverbed. So then you want to explain the agricultural practices. To me, it illustrates it's still a developing country. The paddies along the riverbeds are pictured in the upper left. It's a staple food of the island. The middle image shows Mahinda, is the guy. Cinnamon farming, doing his work by hand, illustrates the lack of machinery used to perform the work. The upper right photo was the tea plantation, which that land is controlled by foreign investors but worked by the island natives. So these are all types of subsistence farming. So that gives you an idea of an example of what a decent project would look like. Um, Again, at the beginning of each section that you have to do, there's a more detailed explanation of how to do your section. So make sure you use this template to help you complete the project. Let me know if you have any more questions. Just message me, email me, or stop into a